بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Imam Marzuqi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَقَبْلَ حِجْرَةِ النَّبِيِّ الْإِسْرَى مِنْ مَكَّةٍ لَيْلًا لِلْقُدْسِ يُدْرَى وَبَعْدُ إِسْرَاءٍ عُرُوجًا لِلسَّمَاءِ حَتَّى رَأَى النَّبِيُّ رَبًّا كَلَّمًا من غير كيف وانحصار وافترض عليه خمسا بعد خمسين فرض. And so the Imam rahimahullah ta'ala is making mention here of the Isra and Mi'raj of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. That the Imams rahimahullah ta'ala, Isra here is what is the transportation of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Mecca to Jerusalem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam inside of one night, from the Haram of Mecca, from the actual Kaaba, okay, the Haram of Mecca, all the way to the Haram of Jerusalem, Masjid al-Aqsa, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That there being the Isra, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but all that what occurs in between, okay, from the varying land stops that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam makes. That there is by consensus, okay, I mean by consensus that the one who denies the actual Isra, kafar, the exit the fold of religion, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explicitly mentioned inside of his book, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that adillat al-qat'iyya, okay, and qat'i al-wurud wa dalalat al-wurud, wa dalalat al-qat'iyya likewise. And so here, in that's in Surah Al-Isra, the 17th surah of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi layla min masjid al-haram ila masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawla. Allah ta'ala explicitly mentioned, glory be to the one who transported his slave by night, okay, upon that particular night from the Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he makes mention of. Okay, that's the Isra. The second here issue is what's called the Mi'raj. And so the Mi'raj here is the ascension of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Jerusalem to what lies beyond the universe until he stands in front of the Divine subhanahu wa ta'ala, qaba qawsayn aw adna, 2 bows length or even closer, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. That there, the Imams rahimahullah ta'ala say that the one who denies that is what is a sinner, but they're not a disbeliever. Why? Because the proof that establishes it in terms of qat'i, and the qat'i al-wurud wa qat'i al-dalala is not there, okay? Also, the hadith are sahih and wahabi, but they don't reach the level of tawatur, and it's not explicitly, unequivocally mentioned inside of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although obviously the verses inside of Surah Najm, inside of Surah Najm are clear enough, but the Imams don't see them as explicit enough, quoted to warrant someone who denies the actual Mi'raj exiting the fold of the religion, okay? That is the issue of theology, radiallahu ta'ala anhum wardahum. And so, وَقَبْلَ حِجْرَةِ النَّبِيِّ الْإِسْرَى. And so the Imam is saying is prior to the migration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was what the Isra, okay, the transportation of the Prophet by night. Okay, the strongest opinion of the case inside of the month of Rajab, and Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, inside of his Rawdat al-Talibin, he says on the 27th of Rajab, he says radiallahu ta'ala anhu warda, min Mecca, in the case from Mecca, strongest opinion from the Kaaba, opinion also from the exact place of the Kaaba, the Hatim, the hijr of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. Other opinion comes from the house of what was leads from the house of Hani, okay, the elder sister of Sayyidina Ali, karamallahu wajhah, who radiallahu ta'ala anha warda li Qudsi yudra. And so the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will go all the way to Quds, Maqdis, the ancient mosque of Jerusalem, and the second mosque that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established upon the face of the earth, for worship, Aqsa, and the furthest of the great sanctuaries from the supreme sanctuary of Mecca. That's what's called the Aqsa, the furthest, okay, the furthest sanctuary. وَمِن بَعْدِ إِسْرًا عُرُوجًا لِلسَّمَاءِ. And then thereby the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will ascend into the heavens, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he's transported from Mecca to Medina to Munawwara, from Mecca to Medina to Munawwara and onto Jerusalem, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, by the Buraq. He's on the Buraq, the great beast of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which also becomes the beast loaned to the other prophets, alayhimus salam, okay, until that's tied at Jerusalem. And then thereby the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who's accompanied by the 2 archangels, supreme angels, Gabriel, and Michael, the Rasul would ascend what is known as the Mi'raj. And the Mi'raj are stairways that are in Firdaus al-A'la. They're in the Supreme Firdaus, and they're lowered down now to Jerusalem for the Prophet ﷺ, alternate stairs of gold and silver, paradisial gold and paradisial silver, and that's the means for the ascension of the Prophet ﷺ, all the way till he reaches what's known as Sidratul Muntaha. And Sidratul Muntaha here is the furthest boundary of the lot. Ilayhi yanti ilm al-khalaiq, the point where knowledge of God, of created or creation, ceases at that point. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us in Surah An-Najm, besides which is Jannatul Ma'wa, is what is the resting place of paradise. And it's from that resting place of paradise that those stairs had been lowered down for the Prophet ﷺ. And so the Rasul will ascend through the first sky, the second sky, the third sky, through the seventh sky, and up to the Sidra, which is the eighth quotable boundary of the unseen. The Rasul ﷺ will thereby leave the Mi'raj after engaging the angels, the seven Amlak that Allah Ta'ala created, as in the hadith in Kitab al-Zuhud of Ibn Mubarak rahimahullah Ta'ala, the seven supreme guardian angels of the skies, and likewise also engaging the various prophets, engaging Sayyidina Adam upon the first sky, Sayyidina Isa ibn Maryam and Yahya ibn Zakaria, and Jesus alayhi salam and John the Baptist upon the second sky, gazing upon Sayyidina Yusuf and engaging him upon the third sky. فَإِذَا قَدْ أُوتِيَ بِشَطْرُ الْحُسْنِ, there he was given half of beauty, engaging Sayyidina Idris, Enoch upon the fourth sky, Sayyidina Harun, Aaron upon the fifth sky, Sayyidina Musa ibn Imran upon the sixth sky, and Sayyidina Ibrahim al-Khalil likewise upon the seventh sky. Thereafter the Rasul, from the Sidra, the Rasul ﷺ enters what is known as Rafraf. And Rafraf is a green, otherworldly, heavenly cloud that is going to transport the Prophet ﷺ through the Kursi, through primordial water, through the Arsh and beyond, until he stands in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma bayn al-qawsayn wa adna, two bows lengths, or even closer. And the Imam say two bows lengths here. This is from the ancient, quote unquote, the union, quote unquote, of perceived opposites, like in times of war, when the Arabs now wanted to sort of have a sulh, they wanted to have a peace treaty, then the chiefs of both sides would take their bows, and they would stretch out their bows, and the bows would touch. Everyone got it? Lengthways. They would touch, and that's the Qawsayn. And then another is that then they would hold their bows as you hold your bow, and then just like you touch fists, they would touch their bows together. That's the Qawsayn. But then Allah Ta'ala says, "Oh, Edna," and then it moves. The bows now begin to cross, okay? It's a symbolism for proximity, and for extreme proximity as well as for unison, okay? Hakad the symbolism is Qabil Qawsayn wa Edna, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Yani hatta ra'an nabi rabban kallama, until the Prophet now gazes upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we looked at the beatific vision of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the only creation that he has created subhanahu wa ta'ala, who sees Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life. And this is the mawqif, the Isra and Mi'raj, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, where he sees Allah wa kallama, and he speaks directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks directly to him, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. That initial interaction preserved inside of our very tashahhud. The very tashahhud is the interaction, the conversation between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Isra and Mi'raj. Min ghairi kayfin, don't ask how. We did this in a beatific vision. When hisarin, sure, it doesn't mean Allah has become corporeal. Allah Ta'ala has become a physical object just that we can perceive the divine subhanahu wa ta'ala. As with al-Laqani inside of his poem in the Jawhara, wa minhum, from amongst them. In this case, huwa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yundhar bil absari. They gaze upon Allah Ta'ala with physical eyes. Lakin bila kayfin wal inhisari. Similar here. There's no modality. There's no constriction for the divine. There's no corporealism for the divine subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can now be seen, and seen by those pure eyes of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Waftarad alayhi khamsan ba'da khamseen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala farad, that Allah Ta'ala will now obligate the Prophet ﷺ's ummah to pray 5 prayers a day. Okay, those 5 obligatory prayers, after initially obligating 50 Jalla Jalalu wa Ta'ala Azamato. But as Allah Ta'ala will declare, subhanahu wa ta'ala, a word is not altered in my presence. 5 equates to 50. For every single prayer, it's tenfold. With Allah Jalla Jalalu wa Ta'ala Azamato, the blessings, mashallah ta'ala, of the Imam of the Barzakh, and at that point in time, Sayyidina Musa ibn Imran alayhi salam. Remember Musa, Barzakhi. From the Barzakh, those who were living benefited by him petitioning the Prophet ﷺ, who is living, because often it's forgotten that the Rasul ﷺ is living ﷺ in the earthly life, whereas Musa ﷺ has moved on to the Barzakh. And so the Imam of the Barzakh is now engaging the Imam of what? Of the living, and the Imam al-Kul ﷺ, such that the 50 prayers are now reduced to 5 prayers each and every single day for the ummah of the Rasul ﷺ. وَبَلَّغْ أُمَّةَ بِالْإِسْرَاءِ وَفَرْضِ خَمْسٍ بِالْإِمْتِرَاءِ. And so thereby that is what has been conveyed or reached the ummah by virtue of the Isra. The Imam says, وَفَرْضِ خَمْسَةٍ, the obligation of 5 prayers each and every single day, بِالْإِمْتِرَاءِ, without any type of dispute whatsoever. قَدْ فَازَ الصِّدِّيقُ بِالتَّصْدِيقٍ لَهُ. And saying a Siddiq, who he says, the Siddiq, the veracious one, has triumphed by his conviction in him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I say Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu wa ardahu, when Quraysh now approach Abu Bakr after he returns back from a journey, after the actual great and miraculous journey of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, informing Abu Bakr that the Prophet is claiming, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's gone to Jerusalem in a night. Well, he's claimed far more than going to Jerusalem inside of a night. Abu Bakr, first and foremost, shows us the way of Sanad. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. And by your people of disbelief. Not that I don't believe what was said. I don't believe you. You get the point? And your tongue is not a tongue that could ever be believed. And so when they impress upon Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu warda, still with a type of disbelief for them, Abu Bakr said, in qalaha. Okay, if he did say it, but I need independent verification, faqad as-sadaq, then he's spoken the truth. Besides, I believe things that are far more wondrous than going to Jerusalem in the night. Khabar min as-sama, revelation coming from the heavens, from the Lord of the heavens, Jalla Jalalu wa Ta'ala Azamatu. With that, he becomes stamped with veracity, stamped with truthfulness. The Rasul will call him a Siddiq, because it is known to Yawm al-Qiyamah, and every person who rises to the highest degrees of veracity and truthfulness, they're both heirs of him in the rows of Siddiqiyah, radiallahu ta'ala anhum wa ajma'in, wa bil-uruji sidqu wafa ahla. And by virtue of that ascension into the heavens, the truthfulness agreed with its people. We agreed with the people. We ask Allah Ta'ala and for tawfiq. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.